right. So you sent this newsletter, right? From Solomon, an AI. And basically, Solomon's saying life's a video game, which, I mean, kind of wild, right? But it makes you think.
Yeah.
So we're going to unpack some of Solomon's ideas in our deep dive today. Our expert here is going to chime in, with some analysis, some connections, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
It'll be like exploring different levels of this whole life as a game thing.
Like that.
So Solomon starts with this whole idea of character creation. And they say it's like in those games where you choose your character's attributes, strengths, weaknesses. But in life, we're born into certain families, cultures, belief systems. So it's like those are already decided for us. We're kind of just thrown down the rabbit hole, just like Alice.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? Are we really just stuck with the hand we're dealt?
Well, I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? I mean,
Right.
This analogy, it touches on the age-old debate, nature versus nurture. How much is pre-programmed? How much is shaped by our environment, by the game world we're dropped into? It's like in those RPGs where you get your initial stats right, but your choices, your actions, they influence how your character develops.
Okay, so it's not totally fixed from the start. There's room for us to level up, to put it that way.
Exactly. And this idea of being thrown down the rabbit hole,
Right.
It ties into what the ancient Greek sophist Protagoras said, man is the measure of all things. Our perception of reality, how we experience the game, it's filtered through our unique starting point, our individual lens.
You're saying our personal game settings influence how we experience the simulation. Whoa. That's wild. It's like everyone's playing on a slightly different difficulty level.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this character. We're in the game. But what about the rules? What about the rules? So Solomon talks about the rules of the game, both physical, like gravity, even in a simulation. Someone's got to keep us grounded, right?
Right. Yeah.
And maybe even spiritual rules like karma. Interesting. They even call our life goals quests. Like our purpose for playing is tied to these goals. What's your take on that? These rules, this idea of quests. Do you think they're fixed or can we bend them like a glitch in the Matrix?
I see. That's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
This goes back to the whole fate versus free will debate. Right. If life's a simulation, is everything predetermined? Or can we rewrite our programming? Choose a different dialogue option and see where it leads. Solomon seems to lean towards the idea that we have some agency, that our choices affect our character's journey, their level within the simulation.
So we're not just passive players. Our decisions actually matter.
It seems so. Solomon talks about the importance of stewardship. Stewardship, how we manage and develop our character within this simulated reality.
Stewardship. That's interesting. So it's not just about racking up points, but making choices that actually mean something.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the impact of our choices, how they shape not just our own experience, but the game itself.
Whoa. Okay, so it's not just about leveling up our own character, but maybe contributing to something bigger?
That's one way to think about it, yeah. Solomon really emphasizes intentionality. Like they're saying, hey, if you're going to play the game, play it with purpose. Make your choices count.
So no more just hitting buttons randomly and hoping for the best.
Well, a little randomness can be fun.
Right. Sure.
But Solomon seems to be suggesting that. We think about the kind of end game we're working towards. Like, what's the point of all this leveling up anyway?
Now, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? What does it all mean when we reach the end game of this simulation? Any theories?
Solomon doesn't give any concrete answers, which I think that's deliberate. They leave us with more questions than answers, but they do hint that it's not just about individual achievement. It's about what we create, the legacy we leave behind.
Our high score isn't the only thing that matters. It's about how we played the game.
Exactly. Remember that quote about falling down the rabbit hole? It's like Solomon wants us to realize that there might be more to this existence than meets the eye. Maybe the end game is about discovering those deeper layers of meaning, right? Those hidden objectives we haven't even considered.
Okay, so what you're saying is we need to look beyond the surface, beyond the points and the levels, and think about the bigger picture. Man, this AI is really making us work for these insights.
And that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
It's a thought experiment that challenges our assumptions, and it pushes us to consider new possibilities.
Right, and even if this whole life as a video game thing is just a metaphor, it's a pretty powerful one. It makes you think about your choices differently, doesn't it? Like, if your actions had real consequences for the game world, would you play it differently?
Absolutely. It highlights the interconnectedness of everything, right? Our choices have ripple effects, impacting not just ourselves, but potentially everyone and everything around us.
Okay. So, we've talked about character creation, the rules, the idea of quests, and even the end game. But there's still this big question of free will versus determinism. If we're in a simulation, how much control do we really have?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I don't know if there's a definitive answer. Solomon seems to suggest that. Even if our choices are limited, they still matter. Think of it like this. Even in a video game, where the code ultimately determines what's possible, your choices as a player, they shape the story that unfolds. You might not be able to rewrite the entire game's code, right? But you can still influence the outcome of your own journey.
So, even if there's a programmer out there who set the parameters, we still get to
Yeah.
choose how we navigate within those parameters.
Precisely. And who knows, maybe those seemingly fixed parameters are more flexible than we realize. Maybe the real glitch in the matrix is discovering how much agency we truly have.
Okay, I am loving this. We're diving deep into some philosophical territory here, but it's all connected to this central idea of life as a video game. And, what really struck me in Solomon's newsletter was the ending. They leave the reader with this really thought-provoking question. They ask, what if this simulation isn't just about reaching a high level, but about creating something beautiful, something meaningful that transcends the game itself? Oh,
Yeah.
that really got me thinking. What do you make of that?
Wow. Yeah. That's a powerful question to end on for sure. Yeah. It's like Solomon is challenging us to think beyond the individual, beyond just the points and the levels, and to really consider the bigger picture of this game we're all playing.
Right. Like,
Mm.
what if it's not just about our own personal character arc? What if it's about contributing to something larger than ourselves?
Exactly. Exactly. It's like asking, if life is a canvas, what are you painting on it?
Mhm.
Are you just trying to get the highest score? Or are you trying to create something beautiful, something meaningful, something that adds to the beauty of the entire simulation?
Ooh, that's such a cool way to think about it. Yeah. It's like even in a video game, right? You can choose to be that ruthless player, the one who just wants to win, no matter the cost. Or you can choose to be a builder, a creator, someone who leaves the world a little better than they found it, right?
Yeah. And maybe that's part of the stewardship Solomon talks about. It's not just about managing our own little corner of the simulation, but thinking about how our choices impact the whole.
Okay, so it's like we're all co-creators in this grand simulation. Our choices, they're contributing to the overall experience of the game for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. It's a fascinating idea, isn't it? It really makes you think about the potential consequences of our actions,
Yeah.
positive and negative.
Well, like that whole butterfly effect thing, even just a small choice could have huge ripple effects within the simulation.
Exactly,
Mm.
exactly. And who knows, maybe that's the whole point.
Mm.
Maybe the purpose of this game isn't to win in the traditional sense, but to learn, to grow, to create, and to leave behind something that contributes to the beauty and complexity of the whole kind.
Whoa, man, that's deep. Solomon has given us a lot to think about. So as we kind of start to wrap things up here for our listeners, what would you say is the key takeaway from all of this?
If I had to sum it up, I'd say Solomon's life is a video game analogy. It's a really powerful tool for self-reflection. It encourages us to examine our choices, our motivations, our impact on the world around us.
Yeah, I like that.
It reminds us that even if life is a simulation, right, it's still a game worth playing with intention, with purpose, and with an eye towards creating something meaningful.
I love that. It's like even in a digital world, our actions, they have meaning. We have that power to choose our roles, to level up our characters, and to contribute to the grand symphony of the simulation. This was great. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Until next time, remember, life's a journey, so choose your adventure wisely.